Hello and welcome to today's class. So this class is a beginner's class, so we're going to be going over some very basic things in a little bit slower fashion and doing things very safely so that you can learn the basics at a slower pace. So one of the things that's really important about yoga, more so than the shapes that you're making with your body, is being connected with your breath and using the breath as we move through our postures. And so I'm going to ask you to take a seat, whatever that looks like for you. How I'm sitting is not how you have to sit. You could be sitting in a chair. You could be even lying down on the floor if that's more comfortable for you. But somehow that you're comfortable. In the beginning of class, if you're new to yoga, sitting cross-legged is probably not going to be comfortable. But if it happens to be for you, if you've got open hips, I'm actually sitting on a meditation cushion. You could sit on a block. And if you have a couple of blocks, that would be really great. I'm actually going to grab my blocks so that we will have those handy. And if you don't, you could use couple of books to give you a little bit of support. So find a position where you can either have your spine perpendicular to the floor or parallel to the floor by lying down, whatever works best for you. And then we're simply going to bring the right hand to the belly and the left hand to the heart center, wherever your position is, however you're sitting. And we're just going to practice breathing before we start linking our breath to some of our movements. So, as we inhale through the nose and we exhale through the nose, begin to notice where your breath is going. Are you feeling it more in your right hand in your belly, or are you feeling it more in your left hand on your chest? And as you begin to notice this, see if you can begin to bring more movement into that right hand, into the belly. So beginning to feel the inhale, fill the belly and press into that right hand. And feel the exhale, the belly moves back towards your spine. And you'll begin to feel less movement in that left hand on the chest, on the heart center. So just feeling the breath here. And then beginning to slow the breath down a little bit. And see if you can count your inhale and your exhale to be the same count, whether that be a count of 4, a count of 3, a count of 6, whatever that is for you, try to make your exhale be the same. So just counting in your head and finding that equal breath. And part of yoga is beginning to tune out the background noises like my dog's barking. Take a couple more breaths here, just really finding that breath and allowing your breath to become smoother. Sometimes we have some hitches in our breath, some catches, and it doesn't flow as smooth. And this is our opportunity to become aware and try to smooth the breath out. Try to make the inhales through your nose just as smooth as the exhales through your nose. And now, keeping that equal breath in mind, we're going to come onto our hands and knees and begin some very simple movements, linking with our breath. So we start in tabletop. This is tabletop on hands and knees. As you inhale, begin to draw your heart center forward and lift your gaze and lift the tail. So the center spine is a little bit more of a curve. And then as we exhale, begin to draw the belly in towards the spine and curl the back of the spine up towards the sky as we let the head and the tail drop. And then inhale, the head and the tail rise up and the belly drops. We open the front of the spine, and then as we exhale, we open the back of the spine. The belly draws in, using our muscular action here, and just doing a few more rounds here. Sometimes it takes a little while to get your breath connected. So inhaling, we open the front body, make space for the breath. Exhaling, we draw everything in towards the spine and press the mat away as you let your head drop. And so we're not bending the elbows here at all. We're just really moving with the spine. Slowing down that breath so that you have it linked with your slow movements. So part of yoga is slowing down the breath, slowing down the movements, and in doing so, we begin to slow down that busy mind. Let's do one more. This is cow as the belly drops towards the earth and head and tail rise. Now we're going to curl the toes under. I don't know if you can see them with my dog in the way. And this time as we exhale, we're going to lift the knees, hover the knees just an inch off the mat, keep the knees bent, and then begin to press the top of your mat away from you as the belly comes towards the thighs. I'm pressing the mat away, knees are still bent, and then I'm going to begin to press the thighs back. So, down dog, people sometimes try to get their heels to the ground and get their legs straight. Keep your heels lifted for now and your knees slightly bent. And think about drawing your belly towards your thighs. Take an inhale here. And then we're going to walk our hands back towards our feet. And as we do so, your heels will come down. Knees are still bent. This is our forward fold, or Uttanasana. And then begin to lift the sit bones up to the sky as you drop the top of the head towards the mat. And your knees still bent here. Your belly might be right up against your thighs. As we inhale, bring your hands to your shins. And we're going to lift the spine parallel to the floor, reach the crown of our head forward and our sit bones back. We take a nice big breath here, and then as we exhale, we're going to fold forward again. Knees can stay as bent as they need to for tight hamstrings. And let's do that 2 more times. Hands to your shins. Let's inhale. Bring your torso or your spine parallel to the floor. Exhale, bow down, bend your knees as you need to. One more time as we inhale. It's as though that inhale breath is floating the heart up. Spine comes parallel to the floor. And then we exhale, we bow down. Bending your knees deeply here. Press into both feet as though you're pressing your feet away from one another. Circle your arms wide as you rise all the way up. And reach up to the sky. And as we reach up to the sky, I'm going to intertwine my fingers and press the palms up to the sky. I don't think you can see my palms right now. Nice big inhale, maybe just a little more sip of air at the top of the inhale, and release the arms, circle around. Bring your hands to your heart center. Let's take a breath or two here. I'm just going to turn my music down a little bit so it's not interfering with your experience. And we're going to go through what we call sun salutations. And sun salutations are really just a way of honoring both the sun that's outside and our sun and our belly, our fire in our belly. And also a really good way to warm up the body because we're moving the body, opening up into back bends, and we're folding forward. We're getting into hamstrings. We're getting kind of all parts of the body warmed up a little bit. So we're going to start with our feet parallel and hip width and start creating that action as though we're drawing the feet apart from one another. Actually, we're going to start at the back of our mat. So spreading the feet apart, we inhale and reach up to the sky. And as we exhale, we're going to fold forward, hinging at the hips. Actually, let's bring our hands to our hips as we fold forward on our exhale, bending your knees, releasing your hands either to the floor or the blocks that you might have here. As we inhale, we lift the heart just like we did before. Let the breath float the heart up and extend through the crown of your head and through the sit bones. And then as we exhale, we're bowing again, bending your knees, and then bring the hands to your mat and walk your hands forward into downward facing dog. So your hands come towards the top of the mat. And again, remember, your knees can be deeply bent here. You can be up on your toes. And then as we inhale, we come forward to plank pose. So just to play with building some strength here, let's drop the left knee and just keep the right knee up. And we're lifting up through the shoulders. And then let's drop the right knee, so both knees are down. And extend the left leg back behind you. Press the mat away from you through your hands. Drop the left knee. Lift the right. Drop the right. Lift and straighten the left. And now drop both knees. We're going to lower ourselves all the way down to the mat. So there's a couple ways that we can do this. You can send your sit bones up to the sky and now lower down knees, chin, chest, which will look like this. And then we draw the chest forward. Or just lower down like you're a plank with the knees down, lower all the way down so the belly comes to the floor. We're going to rise up into our cobra, but before we do, take your right leg, lift that right leg up, extend through your toes, and place that right thigh, the center of your thigh, back down. Do the same with the left. Lift the left, place that leg back down nice and long. And then draw your hands so that they come alongside your side ribs. Elbows are close in, pointing up to the sky. And then as we inhale, we lengthen through our feet, our toes, and we lift the heart up, but rather than cranking the neck back, think about not creating any wrinkles in the back of the neck. So our heart is reaching forward, our crown of our head is reaching up and forward, and our gaze is just slightly ahead of our mat. And we're extending the legs back so much so that the knees lift up off of your mat. And exhale, release your forehead down to the mat. So we're going to do that again. This time, create the action as though you're drawing your hands back on your mat, even though they're not moving. Extend your toes back as far as you can so that the knees are lifted. And then drag your heart forward, lift up into cobra. Draw your shoulder blades together. Draw the hands back. So you can really feel the back muscles working here. Elbows are in towards the body. And then exhale, release down. Then we're going to press up and back into child's pose. So bending at the knees, and there's a couple ways to do child's pose. You can bring your knees wide so that there's room for the belly in between the legs. And you can have your arms extended here, forehead down on the mat or on a block. And if this is not good for your knees, you can have your hips up a little bit and still bring the forehead down so there's a little more space in the back of your knees. And we're going to take a few breaths here. And as you breathe, feel the breath filling the back body and creating some space in the back body. Expansion of the ribs in the back body. Maybe you feel some opening in the hips, in the back of the pelvis, the shoulders. And then your next inhale, we rise up, coming back into our tabletop. Sorry, I'm just keeping an eye on the time here. Curling the toes under. We're going to hover the knees so that we engage our core. And then press the mat away from you, sending the sit bones back, the belly to the thighs, and then begin to press the thighs back, finding your variation of downward facing dog. And we really want to create a straight line from our sit bones down to the heel of our hand, rather than having a big curve in our back. So bending the knees can really help facilitate that. Take another breath here. And then we're going to, as we exhale, walk our hands back to our feet. Bring your hands to your shins. Inhale, lengthen the spine. The heart lifts, spine's parallel to the floor. And we exhale, we bend, fold, top of the head towards the earth. Bend your knees deeply. Circle the arms wide, press into the floor and rise up. Intertwine your hands and let's press the palms up to the sky again. Get a nice stretch. One more little sip at the top of your inhale. And circle the arms wide. Bring them back to your heart center into your mountain pose. So we're bringing all that energy back into our heart center here. So just taking a couple breaths in our mountain pose. We're going to do another sun salutation and we're going to add some lunges into our sun salutations. So let's inhale, back of your mat, Inhale, reach up to the sky, and as we exhale, we fold forward, hinging at the hips. So you can have hands on your hips or circle your arms wide like I just did. Inhale, hands to your shins. Let's lift the heart and lengthen. Let's bow down. Bring your hands down. Walk your hands to the top of your mat in downward facing dog. Take an inhale here, exhale it out, knees might be bent. Inhale, come forward to plank pose. Exhale, drop your knees, uncurl the toes, lower all the way down. Cobra pose, inhale, draw the heart forward, back of the neck is long. Create the action of drawing the hands back and really engage those legs like you're pressing all 10 toenails down. Exhale, release down. Take an inhale. Exhale, press back. Child's pose. Release your back. Take a nice deep inhale into the back body. And then rise up, tabletop. Curl your toes under. Send the sit bones back, belly to the thighs, and then begin to press the thighs straight. Take an inhale here. And as we exhale, this time we're going to try walking our feet towards our hands. So taking little steps, keeping your knees as bent as you need to. You can bring your feet wide to make room for the belly. And so our feet are wide on our mat. Bring your hands to your shins. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, bow down. Press into both feet and come all the way up. And draw into your heart center. Inhale, circle your arms wide. As we exhale, bow down. We're just repeating what we've already learned. Inhale, lift the heart. And as we exhale, this time we're going to walk our feet back into downward facing dog. So you might take a few steps to get your feet back. And then we're going to drop the knees, come into tabletop. And we're simply going to bring that right foot forward, step it to the top of our mat. So it's between our hands are framing that foot. And now we're going to bring our hands to that front knee, coming into a lunge. So we can stay right here and just begin to feel a little bit of opening in that left hip flexor. Or we might reach that left arm up to the sky and feel that whole left side get a little bit longer. Maybe we even lift our gaze. Maybe we even lift both arms here and stretch through the side body. And it's absolutely fine to keep both hands on that front knee too. Exhale, bring both hands down. Bring that right knee back. Coming back into our tabletop. We're going to bring the left foot forward now, between our hands, and then lift up, both hands to that front knee, and then decide if you're going to lift that right arm. Stretch it up, slightly lifted gaze. Maybe you lift both arms and really stretch up through the side body here. Take a nice big inhale. Exhale, both hands come down. Bring that knee back, come into tabletop. And let's lift the knees on an exhale. Find our way into downward facing dog. Take an inhale here. Exhale it out. And then we're going to walk or step our feet to the top of our mat. Inhale, hands to your shins, lift the heart. Exhale, bow down. And inhale, press into the floor, bend the knees deep, rise all the way up. And draw into your heart center. So we're going to come into some standing poses now. So have your feet be hip width apart, hands to your hips, take an inhale. As you exhale, sit down as though you're sitting in an imaginary chair. Your feet are energetically moving away from one another. And then we're going to lift this right foot and step it towards the back of our mat. And then we're going to pivot that heel down so that if we drew a line, imaginary line from the front heel, it would come straight back to our back heel. But our back foot is turned out at either almost a 90-degree front foot is facing to the top of your mat. So from here, you can actually use both hands or just your left hand. We're going to think about pressing that front thigh down. And you need a fairly wide stance here because what we want to avoid is having that knee come forward past our ankle. We want that knee stacked right over the ankle. And we press that thigh down, maybe bending the knee a little bit more. And then send your back right arm out behind you and even look back there. Maybe lean back, reach out a little bit more, and then float your front hand up, your left hand, and look over your middle two fingers on that left hand. This is Warrior Two position. So let's find our breath here. We haven't talked about the breath for a little bit. Find your inhale as we lengthen the spine up, and the exhale, bring your awareness to your feet, grounding down a little bit more. Take a peek at that front knee, make sure it's still over your ankle. Take one more inhale here, feel those legs grounding, your strong warrior legs. And then let's turn our left palm up to the sky. And as we inhale, your back hand can come to your thigh, your left palm is going to reach up and over and even look up to the sky to your ceiling. So we're bringing a really nice stretch into that whole left side body. That front knee is still bent, just like it was in your Warrior Two position. We take one more breath here, and then as we exhale our breath out, we're going to bring this left forearm to the top of our knee. Bring your right hand to your right hip, and we're going to rotate, like we're rotating everything up to the ceiling. Send that back arm out behind you, palm facing up. And on your next inhale, reach it up and overhead. So we're creating a long line of energy from that back heel all the way up the right side body and out the fingertips. And you can even turn your head to look up. And rather than allowing the body to close, we want to keep rotating it up towards the ceiling. And as you exhale, the belly draws in and moves up towards the ceiling. Same as your gaze. Take one more breath here. Exhale it out. And then on your next inhale, use that right arm to lift up. Press into both feet, come all the way up. And now we're going to turn both toes towards the long side of your mat. Hands to your hips. Thumbs towards the back of your spine. And then inhale, lift your heart, maybe even lift your gaze slightly. As we exhale, keep reaching your heart forward. We're folding forward, folding forward. Tiny micro bend in your knees. I forgot to say, you might have blocks here. As you fold forward, you can slide your hands down your back of your legs, wherever your hands come to. Now that might just be your shins, might be your ankle, might be to your blocks, or might be to your mat. With a tiny micro bend so you don't hyperextend, see if you can let the top of your head spill towards the earth rather than craning to keep your neck up. This is wide-legged forward fold or prasarita. And now bring your hands back to your hips. As you inhale, bring your spine parallel to the floor. Reach through the crown of your head and your sit bones. Exhale it out. And then as you inhale, come all the way up from where we started. Now we're simply going to turn our right toes, pivot on your heel, turn your right toes to the back of your mat or the short end of your mat. We're going to come into Warrior Two on our second side. So bend that right knee, press that right thigh down. Maybe you need to widen your stance a little bit. We're bending the knee, pressing that thigh down. Take a look at your knee. Is it right over your ankle or is it dropping in towards center? We want it right over the ankle. And now reach your left arm out behind you. And even look behind you, and maybe you can draw back a little bit more without losing the bend in your knee. And then lift your right hand. Look over your middle right fingers. This is our Warrior Two on our second side. Feel that strength and grounding through your legs. And as you inhale, feel your spine lengthen up from your pelvis all the way up. One more breath. And then we're moving into Peaceful Warrior. So the right palm turns up to the sky. And on your next inhale, reach up. The left hand comes to your back leg. And it's almost like you're throwing something away overhead, looking up and creating as much space as you can from that front hip all the way up the whole right side body. Making space for breath, we open up all those intercostal muscles between holding the ribs tight. And now we're moving into side angle on our next exhale. So take one more inhale here, make space, and then as we exhale, the right forearm comes to the top of that knee. And remember, we're rotating up to the ceiling, not folding forward. Send your left arm out behind you. Palm is facing up on your next inhale. Reach up and overhead. So again, we want to avoid closing forward towards the earth. We want to open up and look up towards the sky. And really create as much length in that left side body as you possibly can. Take one more really long, lengthening breath here. Exhale it out, down through your feet. And then inhale, press into both feet, come all the way up. Turn your toes back to the long side of your mat. And we're going to come into a pose called 5-point star. So your hands reaching out at about 45 degrees above parallel, so just slightly up. So your legs and your arms and the crown of your head are all reaching out as far as you possibly can, like 5 points of a star. Take an inhale into your belly here, and as you exhale, imagine the prana or energy that you're creating in your practice traveling out through all 5 points, through both fingers, both hands, both legs and both feet, and through the crown of your head. Take another inhale into your belly. Exhale, imagine energy traveling out through all 5 points, filling all your cells with energy. Take one more inhale here, and then as you exhale, release your hands down. Let's turn our our left toes back to the top of your mat, and we're going to step that back foot, the right foot, to meet that left foot at the top of our mat. So coming back into our mountain pose. We're almost at our 30-minute mark. We're just going to come into a short little balance here. before we wind it down onto our mat for cool down. And you might have, we're going to do a tree pose. So you might have a block here. Hopefully you can see my block. I've got it right between my feet. We're going to start by bringing our right foot onto that block. So my right knee is bent, hands on your hips. I'm simply going to pivot my toes so that my knee points out to the right. So this front leg, rather than sinking into that left hip, we're going to lift up and get really long through that left hip. And think about grounding through that left foot, pressing down. The toes on my right are just helping me balance. And I bring my hands to my heart center. A little gentle tree pose here. Keep lifting through that left hip so you don't sink into it. Finding our balancing muscles in the ankles. And then we're going to bring that foot back. Come down into our mountain pose. And let's do our second side. So I'll bring the left foot to that block. So my left knee is bent. Lift up through that right hip. Pivot the knee over to the left side. Lift up through that hip again. Bring your hands to your heart center. Really ground down through that right foot. Inhale up through the spine and the crown of the head. Like a tree reaching up to the sun, to the sky, as your roots ground down to the earth. Take one more breath. And then pivot that foot back, release it down into your mountain pose. Take a nice breath here, inhaling into the belly, exhaling out. One more inhale. Exhale out. And now we're going to flow our way down to the floor. Starting at the top of your mat. Let's inhale, circle our arms nice and wide and reach up to the sky. As we exhale, folding forward, bending your knees as much as you need to. Inhale, lift your heart, hands come to your shins as we lengthen the spine, bringing it parallel to the floor. Exhale, your belly draws in. Bring your hands down either to your blocks or to your mat as we bend the knees. And step back into our downward facing dog. Drop your knees down. Come into tabletop and then making your way to your seat. We're going to go ahead and lie back down on our backs and just do a very gentle supine twist before we come into Shavasana. So coming down onto your back, your knees are bent, soles of the feet on the mat. Let's bring your right knee into towards the chest. So you could bring your hands to your shin or the back of your thigh. But you should feel this on the right side of your torso, not coming into center. So we're keeping that leg on the right side. You might straighten your left leg. If that feels like too much, you could keep that left foot grounded with the knee bent. This is really good for digestion. And it's just a really nice de-stressing, winding down kind of a pose. Now I'm going to take my left hand to the outside of this right knee and extend my right arm straight out. So opposite hand to your knee, and I'm going to draw that knee over and across and come into a twist. So I can keep that hand on that thigh or that knee to support it. And look towards your right hand so the gaze can go opposite of your knee. Just a nice little twist for some spinal mobility and unwinding through the side body. And then let's bring it back to center. Let's bring both knees in now. And if you want, you can rock from side to side. Massage the low back. And then bring the right foot down to the mat as you hold onto the left. This pose, by the way, is called Apanasana, or wind relieving pose, and it's very good for moving the digestion through the intestinal tract. Again, you can straighten that right leg if that feels appropriate for your body today. And just holding onto that left, drawing the leg in enough that you feel a little pressure on the belly, on the abdominal organs. And now right hand to the outside of that leg as you extend that left arm straight. Let's draw that leg across the body and come into a twist. And so you might support your leg here with your hand. And you might look the opposite direction of your knees if that feels appropriate for your neck and spine. It's always important in these yoga classes that you do you. Every body is different. We all have our own little idiosyncrasies and glitches in our body. And now let's use that hand to bring that leg back to center. Let's draw both knees in once again. Rock from side to side. Give yourselves a hug. You made it through your first 30-minute class. Let's bring the soles of the feet down to the mat. Knees are bent. We're going to move into what is called Shavasana, or corpse pose. And so this is just a resting pose of stillness, which is very difficult for many people, but it's one of the most important poses in the class. You can keep your knees bent with soles of the feet on the floor and your knees dropping in if this is comfortable for you, or you can extend both legs straight. Some of you might want something under your knees to relieve any pressure in your low back, like a rolled up blanket or towel, or a bolster if you have one. And let your hands come far enough away from the body so that turning your palms up to the sky is comfortable for you. If that is not comfortable, you can just bring your hands to your belly and let your hands rest on your belly. And we're just going to take a nice deep inhale together. Let the eyes close if you feel comfortable allowing your eyes to close. And sigh out your mouth. Take another inhale here, nice and deep. Maybe just a little pause at the top of your inhale. Sigh it out. Release. One more time like that. And now just begin to bring awareness to your body, allowing all the parts of you to begin to relax and surrender into the support of that solid surface beneath you. And just allow yourself to be in stillness. There's nowhere that you need to be. There's nothing else that you need to be doing. Just allowing these few moments of self-care, of stillness, allowing the energy you created in your practice to be integrated into all of your cells of your body. With each breath, with each exhale, allow yourself to sink a little bit deeper, a little bit softer. Let your forehead melt. Let your tongue soften into the floor of your mouth. Bring awareness into your right jaw and allow that to soften. Into your left jaw. Allow that to soften. Let softness flow into your neck. Let your shoulders melt back. Let your belly be soft and let your breath softly flow in and out of your body. Release all holding and all tension in your hips, pelvis, and buttocks. Let your thighs be heavy and weighted. Feel your heels being pulled towards the earth by gravity. Just 2 more minutes of softening and letting go. Now for this last minute, I'm going to ask you to begin to deepen your breath. So begin to draw more life back into the body. And then take your thumb and touch the tip of each of your fingers on that hand. And repeat. And then reach your toes long. And maybe, if your shoulders allow, reach your arms overhead and stretch your spine. Reach toes away from fingers. And then bend the knees and bring the soles of the feet to the mat. Roll to your right. Use your right arm under your head like a pillow and come into fetal position. Eyes still closed. And then with your left hand in front of you, press into the floor with an inhale. Come all the way up. Find a seat if that's leaning against the wall or sitting on a cushion or a block or a chair. And just take a moment with your eyes closed just to check into what you're feeling in your body. And then bring your hands together at your heart center, honoring the self within. And then you can flutter your eyes open and I say namaste to you. Namaste simply means the awesome in me sees and recognizes the awesome in you and that we are one and the same. Namaste. Have an amazing day. Thanks for joining.